Good day and welcome. This session I'd like to go over how to build up the body or building up the body. In our last session we talked about the basic human proportions using my capital I method. And if we go over that, I'll show you once again. If you remember, we had our capital I, which from here down to here would represent the shoulders and then our hips. From that we have a basic starting point that we can work the relationships to other things. So from the top of the shoulders to the top of the hips down to the top of the knees, and top of the knees down to our ankles, we now have our basic three proportions to get the structure going of the human. From there, as I mentioned quickly, we could actually have our foot coming out here and out here, just a little bit lower, and triangles were a good shape. I'm going to leave them blank for the moment because I'm going to fill them in when we build up the body here. The other thing is that from here down to our knee top, from the top of the hips to the top of the knee, if we divide that into three equal spots, this would give us our base of the pelvis right there, or behind level. Once again, that also is where the full length of our arm is. So if I came down from the top all the way to here, and all the way to here, we would have then the full arm. Now half an arm is exactly where the elbow should be. Now if we take that amount and we move it upwards, we now have the top of our head, and for the whole distance down, we from here to here, if we go 3/4 of that way, we will have our general head size, and then we have our neck. Now, hands will fall past this point right here, and as I said before, if we just do a basic mitten, we will have our look to that. Now, basic mitten, we could also go for our triangle right here and triangle here. A right angle triangle gives us a side view of the foot for the most part. A equilateral triangle gives us a straight on view. Now to flesh up a bit here, I'm going to transfer over to my black marker. All we need to do now is build up some body mass around that. And of course, we can always start with our legs or body, which we go with. So I'm just going to start coming down here to the top of our hips on either side right here. I'm going to go around and down here. This is the top of the knee, as I said before, so I'm going to put a kneecap extending just below that. Actually, I'm going to put it a little bit more on the side there, and this one certainly right in here. I'm going to then build a leg going into here, coming down to here. I'm going to build the calf and down to the ankle. Now, the calf curve starts at the back of the leg here and doesn't go right down to the bottom. It goes to right about halfway. So the curve bulges about halfway from here to the actual bottom of the foot, and then comes inwards a little bit as it meets about half of that. I'm going to put a little bit of a front area there. I'm going to build in then the foot right here. Now toes, obviously a big toe starts in the middle. I'm going to put a few little toes like that to give us that feeling of a leg right there. This is a very basic structure, and again the lessons as a whole are for basic human figure. Once we can get there, we will go further as we go on, but these sessions for the most part will give us a chance to really understand how to quickly achieve a body and proportions and some of the details. I'm going to extend this leg down to about here, and our calf will bulge on the outside a little bit coming down to our ankle, and the inner side not so much. And as we come down here to the forefront, a big toe like this, another one, another one, another one will give us that look of it coming straight on. Okay? Our perfectness of this is not quite there just yet. Now, I have the head shape right here, and I'm going to the head for a second, is I want to just make the neck down to where I'm going to start my shoulders, which are just above this bar. They could be at the bar, but still there. And come around. Now this is very interesting because the full side down here, this is where the elbow point is. So if we have our top muscle right here, coming down to our bicep right here, it will curve, and that will be about halfway between here and here. So you have a little bulge and then another long piece right there before we get to the inner elbow and then our forearm. Now, here's the interesting part for most people. These are a couple of little notes related to where certain things are. Once again, this is the top of our hips. Now, from the top of our hips, okay, we got to come down 1/3 for the base of the pelvis. This is the full length of the body. Half of that point is actually where the elbow is. Believe it or not, though, that is actually where our rib cage is, right there at the halfway point. And that rib cage right there, if you put your elbow into your body, you'll find that the elbow will meet exactly where the rib cage is at the bottom there. It will extend upwards. And halfway between here and here, the shoulder point halfway, is basically where our chest line will be. Now, what's interesting about the chest line, for all of us in that sense, it starts here, but if you come up just a little bit up, that'll give you the start of where our underarm will be on a person. So for that, if we come over to this shoulder, a little bulge right here coming to there, if I come up a little bit and start right about there, because it's really tight to the body in this drawing here, then I have my forearm coming down here to my hand. And as I said, hands in general are quite just mittens. And so we're going to go over shortly in another session, hands and feet. This gives us a very simple human form, as I said, building it up. To repeat that upper part of the body section there, I'm going to use another illustration right here again. I'm going to take blue, and I'm going to show you we have a shoulder pin. Okay, we come down to our hip pin. Okay, we come down to our top of our knee, and we can go from there down. I'm running out of the paper length. Never shorten things to fit on the paper. Just let them go off or just let it fade off. It's a good drawing technique in that sense here. Shoulders to the top of the hips, top of the hips to the top of the knees. 3 equal points gives us the base of the pelvis right here. And I'm going to flesh up a bit here for you with the black one. Now, we got our shoulder point right here, coming down. This actually could extend a little further. All right, and here's the interesting thing is that we will have our leg coming down to our knee right here. This is the base of the pelvis as well as where our behind is. That coming down here. I'm going to make a slightly larger line here in that sense there for coming outwards, and then we have our knee right there. Now for our torso, once again, from here to the shoulder pin, not from the top lips, but from the base of the pelvis to there. The halfway point is actually where the arm point is, okay? But halfway between here and there is where our chest line is. So I'm going to just dot this down here. If I start right here, and this being a male torso for the moment, okay? If I go up a little bit like here, I will actually have the underarm for my human. I'm also then, now we're at the middle point right here, that'll give me then the start for the inner elbow and also for my forearm. As we come down to about right to the base of the line here, we then have our hand, a mitten. And let's go back to this. This is actually where the rib cage is, right in the inner elbow, okay? So we will come upwards a little bit here just and bring this down in here, and then we'll come out here. If we go over to this side, this is on a slight angle, but this right here is our rib cage coming down here to the hip and then outwards. And just to give it a quick little sort of finishing touch on this illustration right here, just going to go around to there, finish a bit of a head. Well, on the basic human proportions, the inner blue lines to the body building upwards, remembering then that our base of the pelvis, where our behind is right here, is 1/3 of the way to the actual top of the knee. 1, 2, 3. From the base of the pelvis all the way up to the shoulder pin, halfway, is our rib cage line. And from here to the shoulder, halfway, is our chest line where we all start with. And if we curve it just upwards, that is actually the start of the underarm. And that can give you a chance to see it's going like that. Many of my students, the young ones, will draw a line like this on a body, and you'll have this little hinging point that actually starts a little lower, okay? So that illustrates that very clearly. And I've got one more little quick illustration to show you on the fleshing or building up of the body, and that is simply on the female form is not much different except for the fact of where the curve starts. So just to give you a basic plan once again, shoulder pin, okay, coming down to the top of the hips to the top of the knees, all right, top of the knees to the ankle, all right. Once we have that, we have the base of the pelvis, from shoulders to there, the base of the pelvis, okay, is actually the halfway point right there. Now, what is interesting with this is that the halfway point, we'll come back to this illustration once again. For women, this is where the curve is at the base of the ribs. So to get that nice curve that we see it actually will curve inwards right at your elbow point. So where you want to make the curve is right there. So I'm going to use this black marker again and just illustrate our female figure a little bit more in a sense. Looking for places to start here as I draw away. So this is the leg coming down here, knee, top of the knee, that coming down, ankle, foot coming toward, big toe on the inside going outwards, all right, inner leg, the outer thigh coming to a knee on a bit of an angle, because I'm going to have this one facing to the side right here. Okay, a little bit thin there. Drawing with markers is never my specialty, but I do love doing work cut that way. Okay, so here is basically half of the body from here to there, all right? So this means is that if we start from right here and come down, we now have that curve for the backside and behind. And if we go from there outwards again, we will actually have that nice curve that we find in female drawing. From the shoulders down here, remember from here to here, the halfway point, this is where the chest line is. And of course, we all start there. And we do grow from there as well. Then from here down to where your elbow is, the inner elbow, that's the spot where that curves. We have your forearm, and then we have, as I always say, draw a bit of a mitten in a different shape that way. You got this. I'm just going to put a little face in here if I can. Not the greatest one given the bluntness of this marker, but you'll get the feeling of the female figure then. The arm on the other side is hidden through there. When I do a drawing of something hidden through, I will usually project a very light line from my stick form so that I know where it is in relation to the stick in here. Then, if I don't see that part, that's fine. Then I can see this part and work from there. And that gives me my basic. So now we have the curves that I want you to know for the female figure. And we have basic building up of the body from our original eye-structured human proportions.